Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of SO NWA, the podcast about serving others here in Northwest Arkansas.
That's right, everybody. We're your hosts. I'm Enrique, and I'm here with my brother, Juan Carlos. We're both proud natives of Northwest Arkansas, and we've seen the community grow and change throughout the years.
That's right. Each episode, we highlight the entrepreneurs, artists, and everyday people who make this area such a great place that we call home. And we talk about anything from real estate to local businesses to restaurants, hidden gems, and community stories. We cover it all.
That's right, guys. But we're not just podcast hosts. We're actually local real estate agents, help people buy, sell, invest, or even just get connected here in the Northwest Arkansas area. So whether you're from here, you're new to the area, or you guys just love a good story, you're definitely in the right place.
Yes, guys. And if you ever need any help in your real estate needs, whether you're buying, selling, or investing, or if you want any recommendations here in Northwest Arkansas, feel free to reach out to us. You can find us on Instagram at SO NWA Podcast, or you can email us at sonwapodcast@gmail.com. But yeah, let's get into today's episode.
That's right, guys. So in today's episode, I personally think it's a good one, especially if you ever thought about doing a podcast or if you already have one and you're wanting to grow that podcast. Today, we're joined by Ana, a podcast strategist and producer who's actually been in the game for over a decade. She actually started her first podcast all the way back in 2008 while studying communications and journalism in Portugal, very far from here. And since then, she's worked across Portugal, London, and now here in the United States. She's the founder of the podcast space, where she helps entrepreneurs, especially those trying to make a real impact, launch and grow podcasts, and that actually connect, build trust, and drive business. She's worked with over 40 professionals directly and helped thousands more through her resources. Her whole focus is helping people avoid burnout, get clear on their message, and turn a podcast into something that actually moves the needle. So Ana, welcome to SO NWA. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
I'm very excited to be here.
Yes, we are. Anna, we've been talking for some time now since the
Artcast.
Artcast, yeah.
Conference.
Shout out to Ty and everyone that helped in it. That's how we met. And I won the book.
Yes, you
Yes,
did.
that
Sponsor Magnet by
Yes.
Justin Moore.
And I've yet to read it, but it's on the list. My goal this year was to read 4 books for the year.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know me, I haven't read a book probably since college. So that's my goal this year. And I'm on my second book now.
So a book every quarter.
Correct. A book every quarter. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we've been talking and we're really happy to have you here. And we're really excited for to hear your story and what you do as well. So welcome. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're super excited. All right, Ana, some rapid fire questions for you. You ready?
All
right. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Coffee. Me too. Okay. Hot or iced?
Hot, always.
Oh, yeah, I like that answer. This guy likes iced coffee.
Iced coffee all day.
Nah. See, I'm the same way. I think you got to drink it how it's intended to be drank. You brew it hot. I mean, why are you going to make it cold? Just me, though.
Not as tasteful.
I agree.
Really? Okay.
It's kind of a little more like bland when it's cold. So.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm telling
Interesting.
you.
Okay.
Morning person or night owl?
In between after lunch.
Okay. After lunch is cool. So
I don't feel like I wake up super early, but also like I feel like sometimes I'm like an old lady who's like, it's 10:30 at night. I need to go and sleep.
And go to sleep. Yeah, I'm the same way too. I think not like an old lady, but I think it depends on the day if it's more busy or not.
Yeah.
Portugal, London, or Texas/Arkansas. Where feels most like home for you?
None of them truly feel like home. That's something that I feel like I don't know. Like there's parts of the US that I adore and I think are amazing. There were parts of London that I thought were incredible and things about back home that feel really good. So can't answer that.
Okay. So there's not one place where you feel home most?
No, because
Okay.
and this is something that I find that a lot of like immigrants resonate with is that every single time you move somewhere, if you lived a great life there, let's take it you wanted to move, you wanted to be there.
Yeah.
You will always have meaningful experiences that kind of paint a picture of that time in your life. So when I was in Portugal, it was like, all the way until I was 22. Then I moved to London. So it was like my 20s. I was like young and carefree and things. And then I moved to Texas.
Okay.
Married, had a different, became then an entrepreneur. So I think that there were always parts of it that I was like, oh man, there's different things to each.
That makes sense. It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah, you're going through different phases in your life,
Yeah.
right? So each place has maybe a different kind of feeling to it.
Yeah, I think that's even the thing about actually Northwest Arkansas. This is not rapid fire at all.
And
but
it turns out to be that way.
Yeah.
Okay,
we've noticed,
So
yeah.
you're good.
like rapid fire, or is it?
We'll have to add that.
Yeah.
That could be like the name of the segment. But I think that Northwest Arkansas, like, it has experienced such insane growth, and the transition from becoming like a smaller hub to just becoming the place to be, in one of the biggest urban spots in the US, that it's like you don't need to really go anywhere because now people are coming to you, so you actually get to experience different phases of your region. So I think that's an interesting thing, though.
Very true. Very true. Good. One thing people would be surprised to know about you.
I mean, I always answer this differently. I'm a twin.
You're a twin.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Very cool.
Yeah, fraternal, non-identical. I always confuse the terms. Anyway, yes, she's way taller. Type A. I'm more like type B, creative genius. Messy genius. Oopsies.
Sister.
Yeah.
That is so funny. Your go-to podcast you're listening to right now?
Creator Science by Jay Klaus. It breaks down what it takes to be a successful creator that goes beyond the basics. Highly recommend. Jay was on my show. Super excited about that.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah, I love his podcast. Very good.
We'll definitely have to check it out. If you weren't in podcasting, what would you be doing?
I think something related to people. So maybe something that would be like events. At some point when I lived in London, I really loved working in coffee shops. And there's something to be said about welcoming people into your space, making them feel like they're part of like a little community. So definitely jobs that had to do with like building relationships in whatever capacity.
And a real estate agent.
I
don't know. I love interior design, but like, I don't know. I have very strong positions about like homes and bad design. I don't think I would be able to be like, this is your dream house, y'all. Be like, picture it. A lot of vision.
With the right amount of money, this could be your home.
Yeah.
That is funny. Audio or video podcast, which wins right now?
Man, a video for discoverability, audio for portability.
Okay.
I think it's not one or the other.
Okay.
Kind of depends on
Such a great answer. That's pretty good.
Very good. Spotify or Apple Podcasts?
Spotify, 100%.
There you go.
The user interface.
Okay. I was going to say, give us a little more detail.
Yeah.
Why? Okay.
You can like toggle between music and podcasts.
Okay.
And also something, like I talk a lot about this because of obviously it's my industry, but in terms of user behavior, I used to have Android most of my life, so I got used to Spotify a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I moved into an Apple device, and then I was like, I can't get into the Apple Podcasts interface for some reason.
Okay.
And also on Spotify, people can leave comments. Leave a comment below, letting us know.
There you go.
That's way more interactive than Apple Podcasts.
That's true. I would agree on that. Yeah, the only comment we've had was on Spotify. So
well, there you go. Okay. Spotify on top.
Okay.
Very good.
Good to know.
In one sentence, what's the biggest mistake a new podcaster makes?
So hard. Okay. So maybe they got the charts. I think not allowing themselves to have fun because they're trying to like follow a recipe from someone who just they love and like trying to follow that to a T. I think that would be, like not honoring the fact that they're starting. Before we started, we had record. We were talking about like the process of learning and adding a little more, like maybe starting audio and then moving into video and exploring that. Like I think that's really important.
Yeah, they're a little bit too tough on themselves. Right. Very cool.
Very good.
One tool every podcaster should use.
In whatever capacity, like just like any.
Yeah, like in general, kind of like I guess. A specific tool that they can use that can help them.
Okay, I'm going to go against the grain and say a notebook of achievements.
Oh, okay.
So whether they have, a comment from someone, whether they finally interviewed their guest, they got a review, like a podcast is kind of something that you celebrate, you don't celebrate enough and is really important for continuity because it's like a marathon. So you need to be motivated along the way. So whether you receive an email, you receive, a comment from a peer, just put it all there because on those days where the downloads stagnate and all those things don't go your way, you can go back and read them. And I'm like, oh,
so smart.
I'm doing something good.
Wow, that's really good.
Very, very good.
Gosh.
Very good. And then final question, most underrated growth strategy in your opinion?
Most underrated. Well, I would say not actually talking about the things that you're an expert in. A lot of people will do shows and not focus on their expertise because they think that everybody knows what they're talking about because they're the expert in the thing. And so if you're trying to follow what everybody else's strategy is, which is, like being generic or being, having famous people on, you're actually missing out on what could be. And this is like specifically for people who use the show as a business tool. A lot of people think that because they're unconsciously competent at something. So they think if I know this is going to be obvious for everybody else. So why shouldn't I actually talk about it?
Wow. Wow. That's really
Very
good.
cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Those are great answers. It helps us get to know you a little bit more, helps the audience get to know you as well. And so very fun.
And warms up the guest to the interview.
Yeah. That's a good icebreaker. I feel
those are good icebreakers.
Questions. Yeah, I use that at work.
Do you actually?
Do some rapid fire questions with the staff.
That is funny.
Yeah, that's good.
I am glad to hear though that you agree that you need to drink your coffee hot.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that for sure.
Yes, and my favorite coffee shop in town is Airship.
Okay.
That's where we met last time.
Yes. Do you have a specific location that you like the most?
I really like the one on 5th Street.
That's the where's that? Is that one like kind of near the square, kind of, or?
It's the one
by Meteor.
By Meteor.
By the Momentary.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know which one you're talking about.
Like the vibes are immaculate. Like I'm a creative. I really feel like it's just kind of like chill vibes. People are always like doing something cool there.
Yeah.
I like the one. My favorite is going to be the one in Bentonville, but the one that was the old Bentonville.
Gas pump or something?
The water, it was like the water.
Is it on A Street?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
That's
so nice. It's lovely. I like
lovely.
cycling there.
Yes. Yeah. It's like it's all these houses. There used to be the Bentonville water facility office, something like that, and they turned it into the Airship Coffee.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. But that one, there's always a lot of families there, so I go with my son or we go family, and it's just feels
nice. They have like that yellow. They painted the ceiling yellow, and so yellow / like golden light is really nice. Like it makes you feel like warm and fuzzy, and so versus blue light, and so I feel like that's something to be said about it, that space has gray light and the ceiling being yellow just always has this warmth about it. So.
I feel like a lot of people associate that warmer light to kind of nostalgia in a way. I don't know if I'm mistaken now because, back then, I think most people would use those lights in their home back then as compared to now, I think. So when I see a light, I think of my childhood,
True.
That's just me. I don't know if...
Yeah, for sure, everything used to be a little more... not the tungsten. What am I saying? The incandescent lights? Yes. So I think that's why. And then we got into LEDs, and the Kelvins are like way too blue for my liking. It's just like absolutely not.
I soon I will be trying to go back to the yellow light at the house.
Nice.
Yeah, there's some studies coming out about LEDs and stuff, but
But is this podcast going to suddenly be about interior design and trends in? Because I would be talking about that every hour.
Man, I guess we have to do another episode.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll have to have you on for that because I think you would. Sounds like you know a lot.
I think it's always fascinating to just learn, especially like I worked in podcast studios and like how light and how a space becomes kind of your identity, and how do you turn a space into something that gets recognized when people are scrolling on a feed or when people just see your content and they're like, oh wait, they put something on the shelf in the back, I can't really quite see it, right? And it can become a little bit of like Easter eggs kind of situation.
That's kind of cool.
In this case, we have I forgot to clean the board. I don't know if it shows up or not, but I think it might.
Hey, that's all right. It's not. There's nothing confidential on there. I think. I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, no, not anything confidential. Just funny. I didn't even think about it. I did like the rest of the room, and I just forgot about.
I'm sure our audience noticed that we're not in our usual setting.
Yeah. No. I think this turned out really
but
well.
This is a great space. I like it very much here. It's very, very nice.
Anna, let's get into a little more about yourself and your story. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got here today. Yeah, what you do with your podcast and everything else.
Wow. How much time do we have?
I know. The shorter version.
I'll give it like the very like condensed version. So I was always someone who really loved communication and being around people. I'm an extrovert. And so when it was time to pick what do you choose for college, I decided to go for communications and science of communications and journalism. So at the time, we actually started what would be kind of like online radio / kind of podcasts. And so that was like the interest that I was like, oh, this is really like, I like speaking and this is awesome. So I did an internship in radio and I was like, yep, I really like this. So I started interning there and I was like, yep, it's super important to have like a really good mentor when you're anywhere really. Because my mentor at the time, he was like, hey, I feel like you have too much energy to become kind of like a journalist reading the news or something that is a little more serious. So have you thought about like being on-air talent or maybe like a voiceover artist? And I was like, oh, interesting. And then that led me to starting radio and as like a professional career, moved back to my hometown, did a radio show in the afternoons. Still don't know how they were like, sure. Do you want to have a show from Monday through Friday in the afternoons? Go ahead. So that was pretty cool.
Wow. What was it called?
Megaphone.
Okay.
That was the name of the show.
Okay.
And so I would talk about like, kind of like what would be the news of the day and what was like something going on. This was in 2010, 2011. And so I just ran the show and it was pretty cool. And then at the time, a friend was like, hey, I got accepted in this illustration degree in London. Do you want to come with me? And we have like a girlfriend fun time in London. I was like, sure. So I found like a very quick radio course in London to just be like, okay, like let's learn about, the land of the BBC. What do they have to teach me about audio that I may not know? And so that moved into like a completely different chapter of my life. I started volunteering at local community radios. It's kind of different what we do here. And so that continued my path. I started working in cafes and then in a nonprofit, always doing podcasts, sometimes as a producer, sometimes as part of a collective. And then met my husband, moved to Dallas. And then it was really interesting because I started working in a PR firm that had a content distribution side. So basically they were like, hey, if you want to be in the news, we'll get you in the news, but do you want to have your own show? And so we grew the team from being 3 people all the way to, I think at some point we were like 12. And from, 1 studio to, I think when I left it was like 8 studios. Oh, wow. So yeah, that was really cool.
Wow, that is a lot. I like that.
Yeah. So did you meet your husband in London?
Yeah.
Okay. Is he from
the
UK?
French. He's French.
He's French. Okay.
Yeah.
Very
so,
cool.
Quite interesting that we met and it all worked out. And, when I was in Dallas, I just made a pause for you to be able to like interject because the story does not end there. Because we're in Northwest Arkansas.
Right.
So he got transferred from work from London to the US.
Okay.
And so I came along and I started working on that PR firm. And it was really cool because everyone on that firm was a former journalist. So everyone had the skill set to create good content, to teach and educate business owners. And then in 2020, I decided that, it was kind of like I hit a ceiling at the company. I wanted to focus more on educating people, helping them figure out how do you position your podcast as part of your business or as part of your vision, not just something you do, not just something conversations you have and then hope for the best, right? How do you position this in a way that feels really aligned with what your impact is? So that's why I launched the podcast space in 2020.
Gosh, that is cool.
Very good.
Yeah.
Oh, so your husband got a job in Dallas, and then how did you get? And then to Northwest Arkansas, they called him up and said, "Hey, we want you to come."
So he changed jobs while we were in Dallas. He started working for Walmart.
Okay.
Classic.
Okay.
And
Very
he
common,
was,
very common.
you may have heard a person or two say that. And he was hired as a remote worker, but then we were given the opportunity to come here, and we were like, you know what, let's give it a go.
Okay.
So I work remotely with podcasters. I have clients in the UK. I have clients in Mexico, Australia. At some point, I had clients in Sweden. So, all over the place. Cool. So I was like, I'll just continue running my business virtually anyway.
Yes.
Which is great. So yeah. And then we moved here.
So I do, I follow you on Instagram, and folks, for the audience here, I would say you definitely travel quite a bit. Yes. Are we traveling very soon?
Yeah. Yes. I'm going to Mexico City for about 2 weeks. I'm very excited.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
You've been to Mexico City before? Yes.
No.
Okay. I've been there for vacation for a few times. I've told Enrique he needs to go check it out. And you haven't been, but I said I love Mexico City. My wife and I, we love Mexico City. Great food, great people, great time. So I'd love to hear your experience there.
What would be a place you'd recommend for her to check out while she's out there?
Yes.
Give her some recommendations.
That's a great. So when we went, we stayed in it's called La Zona Rosa, the Rose Zone, right? But what was really cool is our hotel was there, and then down the street, I mean, maybe not even 100 yards, was Ripley's Believe It or Not museum.
No way.
Down the street from that was a brewery. Behind it was a chocolate museum, like the block right behind it.
Oh,
so you just walk around the corner. There was a 7-Eleven there. It was on the other side of the street was a four-way stop, but each one is a coffee shop, a burger spot, taco spot. I mean, if you look it up, the Zona Rosa has like a kind of like the trendy young area, I guess. But I had a great time there. I mean, there's clubs and stuff on, it's a big old neighborhood, but we just had a great time there. We felt really comfortable there. So I would probably say that, besides the other tourist stuff that you can do there. But I just really enjoyed that area for sure. We went right back. Like, we would do our thing throughout the day, and we'd go back to that neighborhood and just be like, oh, what is here? Because we just found so much. There's just little stores, that mom and pop stores we bought gifts from, things like that. So that to me is like my favorite zone. And people are like, oh, that's, I wonder what people think. Yeah, when they're from down there, like, oh, Zona Rosa, I go there all the time. Yeah, but we love it. Yeah, we would go back to that hotel in a heartbeat for sure. It was just a Holiday Inn, but we had such a great time. And that Holiday Inn used to be it used to be like somebody's house, and they turned it into a hotel. It has this huge granite staircase in the front.
Oh, wow. And
then next to it was the U.S. consulate, I think. I could be wrong, but some consulate. But anyways, we just felt really cool there. Nice. I love it. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think the walkability is something that I really miss about London, about Europe in general. And I think that's that's actually what I love about NWA, that you can just, in Bentonville, that's where I'm based, you can walk around, but Mexico City is just so mobile. You have public transport, you have tons of stuff. And as a seasoned traveler, I really like having that independence. I actually tip for the viewers and listeners. Don't take an Uber if you can, unless it's a dangerous place, but take the train or take a bus, because that is kind of like a way to get you in the mindset that you're actually there. Because when you're flying somewhere, your head is not really like into the zone yet. And I did this, the most recent time I've done it was when I was in Paris. And so I actually took the train all the way in. And it just like, you start seeing the landscape and you're like, oh, like this is different. The architecture is different. And so you will integrate a little easier because your brain has the time, if it's 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, to actually start taking it all in. And you start like, oh my gosh, like this is so cool. This is so cool. When you Uber, you're like on like a spaceship kind of situation. You're just like, I don't know, you're not actually taking it all in.
You're kind of zoned out a little bit, right?
Yeah.
You're like, they'll arrive and then I'll check back in.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. You're also paying attention when you're on the train or bus, because you're like, I don't want to miss my stop and then have a longer day or whatever.
You're not on autopilot.
Yeah, you're not. That's a very good point.
Yeah, I'm not a seasoned traveler, so whenever me and my fiance went to Seattle, and it's a big city, right? Pretty walkable. So we walked a lot. but I was a little sketched out about the public transport. But that's probably because I don't have the experience yet.
Yeah.
And so I was like, no, maybe we should just walk there. Let's just walk there. So I was trying to avoid the trains and the buses as much as I could.
Granted, a lot of times in U.S. cities, you do have to keep like, there. So that I understand.
Yeah. But to your point, I think that's a great way, once we do start traveling more, to keep that in mind and make sure we actually connect to where we're at, because we're there for a reason,
Yeah,
Not
exactly.
just for a reason. But Ana, you talk a lot about aligning the podcast with your business goals. In your opinion, what do you tell your clients, and how does that actually look like in practice?
Yeah, so something that I do, I think it's important, is to think about the podcast not necessarily as like a side quest of your business. It's part of the ecosystem that you have set up. So you have, a website, you have social media, you have a newsletter, you have, your offline events. And the podcast should try to fit into either an impact that you want to have in the world. So for instance, for me, I started creating a lot of content initially right in 2020, before I started the podcast in 2023, about the content that I felt like wasn't talked enough about. So my expertise on this or that thing. And so I was like, the internet is a void, right? In a way, like, the space gets filled with whatever. So I thought, well, if I have the expertise about a topic, let me educate people on this thing, so that therefore they start associating me with that type of knowledge.
Right.
You can also fill a void in, for instance, I was guesting on a podcast the other day, and I was talking about how a podcast can be a great tool to warm up leads to then get discovery calls. So personally, I love educating. I feel very uncomfortable selling, even though I know that I can help people, and I know that once they work with me, they really see transformation. I think that it's just, when you're an educator, when you're a giver, it feels like it's like that emotional tug of war, like, I just want to help you, but also have to pay the bills. So it's kind of like, do you have FAQs about things that your prospects always ask about?
Yeah.
Or do you want to be, for instance, how I use my podcast is to look at a topic and think, okay, let me give my audience or my clients the most accurate and in-depth information I can about this topic, so that when we meet, we actually just focus on things that are more like specific to their needs. So if they say, how short should be my micro podcast? I'm like, well, I have a podcast episode about that. You're going to listen. That's homework. Okay. Let's focus on questions that you have, like kind of like that more one-to-one back and forth. For other people, it can be, for instance, building their confidence as a public speaker. So when I talk about like your goals, if you want to be a public speaker in 2 years or in 3 years or whatever, and be a keynote speaker, a podcast is a great way to discover your voice, to get comfortable talking about in solo episodes about your thought leadership. Yeah. Great for networking. So if you're someone who struggles with networking, or at least the side of networking that sometimes feels very uncomfortable for a lot of people, you build such meaningful relationships on interviews.
Yes.
Right? So it can really be an element that helps you get to what you need, but you need to have the forethought to be, okay, what does this show need to do for me? Right? There's a few other things, but like that's just some examples. And so when you look at that, you have to think about, what is my capacity, right? Can I do this long term? Do I need to do this temporarily or in seasons? Because, there's parts of my business that really kick off in specific times, so I can't keep it up. Yeah. Do I need to meet more people? Am I new to an area? Then use a podcast to meet people, right? But if you're like, I want to get more comfortable with my thought leadership, or you're either an underrepresented community, or a woman, or someone who's like, I am very different in this sea of competitors, and being visible through a podcast really helps the people that I want to serve see me as an example of what's possible. And so I think that having that discernment, you're not doing this because either everybody else is doing it or because it's the cool thing or you want to be famous, is really having a really clear strategy on how soon are we getting results and what do we want this to do for us.
Yeah, very good.
Wow. You really laid out such great information. It sounds like you've thought of exactly how to get a podcast from here to there, from A to B. what would listeners expect, or tell us like an episode in your podcast of what we would get from like information wise?
Yes. So I always focus on three things: metrics, mindset, and marketing. So every single part of a podcast has these three elements. You can't, create a great podcast episode if you're not willing to dive deep into your expertise. For instance, if you're talking surface level, a friend of mine said this and I thought it was so good. She said, your podcast is like a test drive for a car. If someone says this car is great, but they won't let you do a test drive, you're like, is it a great car really? So if you only talk surface level stuff and you actually don't give client examples, if you don't just explain how you build that knowledge into getting a specific skill set or whatever, how can I, the consumer, think that you're the right person to help me if I cannot see what you actually know?
Wow, yes.
So I thought that was a really good thing. So I like helping people understand. So everything that I talk about is my experience, but also looking through it like an ethical, kind of, strategic, metrics-driven decision, but also like a lot of joy and experimentation. Again, Jay Klaus, the creator of the podcast Creator Science, he talks about these experimentality. So the mentality of experimentation. And so if you're not playing around, the podcast can become very quickly very stale. And so if you're bored, your audience will be bored. So it's important to think about that.
Okay.
That's important for strategy.
Okay. Do you think those factors play into how some podcasts maybe stay stagnant and don't grow as compared to when others maybe they are implementing that and they are seeing pretty exponential growth? Yeah,
I think, again, in podcasting, you can rarely, if I normally focus on supporting podcasters on organic growth, and so not necessarily exponential. Normally the exponential is driven by external factors. So for instance, a topic that you talked about was in the news cycle, and therefore people found the topic because your podcast was optimized in titles and descriptions and people found it. You were maybe a guest on someone else's podcast and you had like an influx of people coming through, or an event, or you went viral on social media or whatever.
I see.
Or you're running ads to your podcast. Most times the success that I find is because people are actually very in tune with what they offer and what's in it for the audience. So I find that a lot of people get really lost in that scarcity mindset, like, oh, I don't have the great camera. I don't have 20 million people listening to my show, right? And then a lot of people really get stuck on that. This is not enough. And normally what I say is like, if you can't appreciate 200 people listening to your podcast, do you think you deserve 200 million? So like
the
totally. The fake it until you make it, I absolutely despised and created a podcast episode about that. I don't like that expression because it removes the value of you actually doing, because the fake it, there's nothing fake about what you're doing. You're doing the thing. You may not believe that you're doing, but in reality, you're taking the steps necessarily to make it. So I normally say, do it until you make it kind of situation.
Yeah, kind of rephrasing that a little bit.
Yeah, like, because it really removes the value of just the courage that it takes to say, okay, I may not believe that I can do this, but I am doing it, right? And so I think it's something that podcasters get really like hung up, like, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have that. And it's like, just do it. Like, we live in a great time where you don't need to be in the media. You don't need to be, nerded out into like tech to have a show. Like, y'all are doing a show and it's great.
It reminds me of like when we talked and then we recorded like 2 weeks later. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we were just kind of like, we went off for coffee and he was like, yeah, I'm doing this podcast and I think you'd be a great co-host if you want to join me on the journey. And I was like, yeah, dude, let's do it. And so 2 weeks passed and then we actually ended up doing 2 recordings.
We did, yes.
But
so,
I mean,
our first
to your point, like, just do it. I think there's value in making those mistakes, I guess, or going through the trials and tribulations of what you want to do. And even if you're not getting that growth right away, or maybe it's taking some time, who cares? I mean, you're putting yourself out there. I mean, that's more than somebody who wants to do it, but they're not. You know what I mean?
Yes.
In my opinion.
Yeah,
that's
no,
how I feel.
I agree. I mean, it was such a, just referring back to that, I mean, it was such a, there's not many things I've done like that before. Like, you want to do it? Let's do it. And especially something like this, to be on air.
You're messing up. You're basically learning a skill publicly. Like, it's scary. Props to y'all for doing it.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Enrique, great job, brother. You've done fantastic.
No, I mean, I'm only here because you approched me the opportunity, right? So I'm grateful for it. So.
We're doing it together.
I'm very happy.
You have, one of the questions we had on here was what separates podcasts from staying small for the ones gaining real traction. And it sounds like being organic, being traditional or not traditional, being like true to what the topic is and all that. So I think that is very helpful.
I guess being genuine, right?
Yeah. Can I just make a side note on this? Yeah. When I talk to business owners, like, we all want to have the biggest possible impact, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And when I think about like millions of downloads, think about the amount, in where we live, that may be the exception, but like for most people, think about how many people you actually know who are millionaires and billionaires. Mm-hmm. Like, do you personally know people? Like, maybe one person. Right, for most people, you don't know millionaires. And the numbers are not necessarily like that common. However, you can have an impact with your business. You don't need to be the highest grossing agent to make a living, to impact your community, spend the money you make back into the community, and have an impact in everyone around you. And I think that podcasting, people have that perception of like, I have to make millions to be impactful, when it's not true. Like, every single small business in the US serves a purpose. They have a community, and they have a niche of people who they're very equipped to serve. And I think that for podcasters, the first thing is understanding that, you do not need to have millions of downloads or have like exponential growth to be able to to be seen as the go-to person in an industry and to create the impact that you want. And I think that is really important to keep in mind.
Very encouraging. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, an exercise I try and tell myself, for my real estate marketing is I look at, for example, let's say I upload a video and it got 1,000 views, right? To most people, they're like, 1,000 views is okay, whatever. But then I think in my head, okay, imagine if these 1,000 people are standing in front of you in a room. Like, if this room was filled with 1,000 people, how are you going to feel? They're all staring at you, listening to you.
And it's attention that it's earned through time. Like, that's the thing. Like, you're with your family. You're, like, I'm going to be in Mexico City and my podcast is going to do the work for me. It's passive marketing. These people, when they like meet you, they know what your values are, what you stand for, what you're an expert in. And so what a great way to not have to be like people in the 50s that had to go door to door, right? Or put an ad on the newspaper or whatever. Like, we can use these tools that today are so amazing to help us reach all of these people. And to your point, 1,000 people, for most business owners, if you received 1,000 emails with 1,000 leads tomorrow, you would be freaking out.
Oh, absolutely.
You wouldn't have the bandwidth, right? So isn't it better 100%. That like every single week you're like two leads, 3 leads, 4 leads, right?
That'd be a very busy day.
I think it's all about perspective. I think it's super important to kind of, realign and think, okay, try and see how this is really going to impact me. And then from there, figure out how you want to grow, obviously, in your long-term plan.
Right, exactly. Like, the goal is to consistently grow so you actually acclimate to the growth.
Yeah,
absolutely.
This question ties into the growth. What are some systems or habits that you recommend so people stay consistent without burning out?
I think it's very important that, because podcasting is such a long-term, it's a project that takes time, that one, you set up medium-term goals and long-term goals. And so, don't put yourself on a level that it's like only 3 years from now will you see results and know if you succeeded or not. Right?
I see.
It's kind of like when you get in the car and you go on a road trip, you don't have gas all the way to the end, probably if it's a long road trip.
Yeah.
So you have to make those pit stops to get gas, to, stretch your legs, to eat something, whatever. Same thing for a podcaster. You need to have, like, for instance, a goal that I can have, actually, some of the goals that I had for my business was to guest on specific podcasts. So I know that, I know within the next 3 months, I want to pitch to be on those bigger shows. But my goal is to get that conversation started. Whether that happens right away or not, it kind of like, it's okay for me, because sometimes some things need to be adjusted. And it's the same thing for podcast goals. You may approach someone who is very well connected, and the fact that you're actually sending that first email and say on top of that is going to help you see the growth, because maybe they don't say yes now, but maybe you go and attend one of their meetings. So then you become a client, and then you're working toward that goal, and you can see what you need to do in order to make that happen, or either be persistent or ask for a personal introduction. Maybe that's what will get you there. So I like having big, audacious goals, but also very practical goals that help you, kind of like those milestones that you like cross-check, woohoo, and then you move on to the next thing, right? Because I think, again, depends what kind of person you are. Some people get really discouraged when they don't start hitting those goals. So give yourself a quick hit of dopamine. So maybe it's like, hey, recording 3 podcast episodes in the coming, quarter, for me sounds like it's like my next goal. So kind of like adjust accordingly. And I think that I've recorded, check. Like, it's not about, how that episode will perform, but what is that process? Is it actually telling yourself, I think that, interviewing 3 people in my community will help me get more acquainted to the influencers. And so my goal is kind of long-term, but the immediate goal is to actually have those interviews recorded. So break it down a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It reminds me of what Mike Dooley says. Think of your 10-year plan and work backwards from there, right? You're doing these little goals throughout it that, of course, there are little goals you're going to feel, like you said, that dopamine rush, but it's going to lead you eventually to what you really want to do down the line.
And it reminds me, too, of what YB said, that consistency is not a straight line. It can be up and down.
Yeah, and it's okay to pivot, right? Like, I think that a lot of people are like, well, I started this podcast. I'm like, if your business goals or your life goals change, it's okay for the podcast to change too. Like, literally, it is your show. And to have agency in those decisions and not be bogged down, but like, oh, but I started it with, like, that's those stories that we tell ourselves.
Yes.
It's like, if this podcast is not filling a purpose in your life or your business, it's time to change it up, because otherwise you're going to resent the podcast. You're going to lose interest. Of course, don't pivot every 3 months, because it's like, okay, what's the promise of the show? Like, why am I listening? But I think it's important to keep it.
Well, like major life events. I mean, for example, when Juan Carlos had his your son, right? We took some time off, because he had his life kind of altered in a big way.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't just like take off the podcast and go like, it's me, guys, me.
We actually did an episode in the what is it, like the hospital room?
Imagine.
Welcome to the new member of the podcast.
But I mean, to your point, I think it's so important to not put that pressure on yourself,
I agree.
Just kind of work and figure out how it can fit into your life while still, doing the things you want to do. Great advice, even for us, a really good refresher, I think.
We were talking about that even before we recorded too. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. And so, you're talking about goals, and I think this is a great question to kind of tie it in. What are you kind of focused on right now, and what's keeping you excited at this current stage that you're in?
So I'm very excited because I'm going to be traveling. This ties in so nicely, though. It's like we planned it. We didn't, but so I'm going to be traveling. And so as someone who has worked in the podcast industry, since 2008, through different levels of, influence and all, like just running my own business since 2020, I realized that a lot of people want permission they need to see someone else do something, so they allow themselves permission, and they're like, oh, if they can do it, okay, it's okay for me to do it.
That's really good.
And so, because I'm traveling, I'm not hauling a studio with me, right? Like, my podcast is seasons. So actually, this is the second podcast I'm announcing it on without actually announcing it on my own feed, but okay. You heard it here first, folks. But I'm
exclusive, guys. Exclusive.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm going to be doing kind of like a hybrid, going back into that experimentality mindset, right? I'm going to do more on the go. I hate filming myself in public. Like, I despise that. But pushing myself outside of my comfort zone. And I'm not, I like being influential in the sense of like showing a different side of influence, like a positive, like how you can use your influence for good. But I am in no way, shape, or form an influencer. Like sometimes when I travel, I'm like, oh, you know, like I'm going to tell you about like how the podcasting scene is in this country or in this place, blah, blah, blah. But then people are like, oh, did you make it on the flight? I'm like, I forgot to tell you guys I made it on the flight, or I made it on the train. I'm like, oh my God, I'm the worst influencer ever, air quotes. So all to say, I'm going to be trying that more like a hybrid model, where it's kind of like I have like a mic like this, and I'm going to be talking about podcasting in more kind of like bite-sized format. So almost a little longer than what like a YouTube short or like an Instagram reel would be. So maybe like 5 minutes or whatever, or 8. So I'm going to take these concepts, these like very hyper specific questions that are about mindset, marketing, or metrics, and kind of talk about it a bit more. And so bridge that gap between social media and podcasting, and show people like, if you're traveling, stop being silly. Like you can book a studio to record podcast content, or you can do it on the go. And so what is value, right? Like if one thing is helpful, like why not do it? And if you're thinking about it, like the Gary Vee documented, don't create it. I'm going to really push the boundaries on that.
That's very cool. Yeah, that's a good idea.
That's a great idea.
I can imagine you walking around Mexico City and with your microphone and giving advice while you have a corn from a street vendor or something, and just going in and know what you're talking about that day. See, I think that would be engaging, you know, and then you're bringing value. You know,
that's very true. I would like to see that. Yeah. I'll be on the lookout.
Yes. Keep it up.
Oh, that is so funny. Ana, you know, we again, thank you so much for your time. Something that we love to do on this podcast is we love to give our guests the opportunity to give a shout out to their people in their corner, their team, whoever it is. So if you have a person, team, or any organization you love to give a shout out to, we'd love to give you that time now.
Okay. Like local, or like can be anywhere?
Anywhere, anyone.
You know, I think that is like, I like to give a shout out, and this kind of ties in with, we're very lucky that in Northwest Arkansas, we have such a breadth and diversity of people from many different backgrounds. And a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we feel like maybe the place where we're at is not great for meeting the right people with the same values we have, or something like that. And so I would like to give a shout out to the internet. I'm joking. No, all of my peers. As an entrepreneur, I have my core group of podcast peers, and we're always there for one another. And I think that is super important. So a shout out to my friends Simona and Yesenia, like they're fellow podcast experts, and they've been there for me whenever I needed to brainstorm something. And I think that like that in itself, like, thank you, the World Wide Web, for connecting people. My friend Simona lives in Toronto. My friend Yesenia lives in Raleigh, North Carolina. So, you know, it gets us to connect.
That's how it is. Pen pals.
Pen pals.
Pen pals, yeah.
You know, YB said, and that was a good one. He said, shout out to all of Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah.
Easy.
Just an
easy umbrella. An umbrella for everybody.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Now, as you know, Anna, the name of our podcast is what? SO NWA. So we love to highlight Northwest Arkansas. We're big advocates of our community here. So to your personal experience, are there any parks or trails or any, I don't know, outdoor spots that maybe you would recommend for somebody to get maybe that full, Arkansas experience?
Yeah, I think honestly, the trail that runs from Crystal Bridges to town, and then just kind of going around that area.
That was very nice.
It's just, and I love, you know, pollinators and landscaping, and so just like botanics in general. And so that area is just so beautiful.
It is.
Compton Gardens. Yep. It's so beautiful to go there in the spring and just see all of the, like, you see deer, like we see deer all the time on the trails. And that's such a cool experience. And especially for young kids, sometimes they can't experience. And that's something that I noticed when I moved from Dallas to Northwest Arkansas, is that people don't necessarily, they love their lawns, but they don't really invest a lot in pollinator plants or like native plants that allow for birds. Like, for instance, I planted a lot of zinnias last year, and the amount of hummingbirds that would come to our window was insane. And so
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like it's better for the environment because they actually bring a lot of birds and pollinator, and they actually don't need to be watered as frequently, especially if they're native. And that area of the museum is filled with those. So you can get a lot of inspiration, but you also start understanding what are the native species of Northwest Arkansas that I could maybe replicate back in my house.
So is that like would you say a favorite plant of yours, or do you have others that you also enjoy?
I don't know. I really love I don't know. Like so many. Like I am the chaotic gardener. I'm like.
Do you have a bunch of plants in your home?
Oh yeah, I'm a gardener. Like I never coming from Texas to here, I was like, oh my god, like cucumbers the size of like babies. I was holding them, and I would be like green beans galore because Northwest Arkansas is way more humid, and the temperatures don't get that high. So my former neighbor was like, oh my god, I miss you so much. Look at my rickety tomato plants. So they were like all poor plant tomato, like dry, crispy. And I'm like, look at my bounty. And I'm just like, look, my plants are super green.
Too funny.
I need to get into that. I do need to get into getting a garden at home.
My dad likes gardening a lot.
Dude,
it's so good for your mental health.
Yeah, he's so proud anytime he gets like a nice cucumber. He's like, mira, hijo. Look at this cucumber. Mira este pepino.
And it's so much tastier. Like, you know.
Yeah.
They like pepinos, they don't really like have much flavor, but like the tomatoes, for instance, you're like tasting them like, oh my gosh, this literally came from my garden. Or strawberries. I was so impressed with my capacity to grow strawberries. I'm like, all right. And I was like, look to my husband, look, dessert. And it's like 4 small strawberries. I'm like, well, it's not that we could, feed ourselves, but I mean, they were so good.
Yeah, they're not like injected with a bunch of hormones to make them like 4x the size, right? So they probably taste a little better.
Seriously, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That is too funny. Too funny.
Anna, tell us one of your favorite go-to spots, restaurant, and you mentioned a coffee shop earlier, so scratch that one. Maybe bar, brewery, anything that you would maybe go to you and your husband or your family.
I love going to the Meteor.
Okay.
It is such a cool spot. Like the vibe is immaculate. They also have Portuguese green wine, which not a lot of places carry.
Okay. Good to know.
It's very light and fruity. Just like the vibes, like every employee there is like super nice. The music is great. Their Wi-Fi signal is not great, but the food is amazing.
Do you know what their speed is at Meteor? Okay. I started since doing the podcast. I now do tests. I'll start doing test speeds like wherever I go to see how it is. Iron Horse is pretty good.
Iron Horse is good.
They're like at 500.
Oh yeah,
500 up and down.
I'll have to see what.
Iron Horse?
In Rogers.
Yeah.
Rogers, downtown Rogers.
Okay.
Next to the rail, or very very close. Actually, it is next to.
Isn't
the
it
rail.
right?
Yeah, it's right next to it. Literally, yeah. The rail pizza, so close to Onyx.
Maybe a podcast episode where you literally just go like, if you like working from these coffee shops, these are the spots I recommend.
We did one. Yeah.
We did a podcast recording in Onyx with the Hanger Peddler.
Only audio because we couldn't figure out the video at the time, but I think we'll have to visit that back.
I think it's time for a redo, improved episode.
Yes.
Very cool. Very cool. Is there a community event or activity that's maybe during certain periods of time here in Northwest Arkansas you think visitors should probably check out while they're still here?
I think the farmers markets are always like very nice.
Yeah, those farmers markets hit hard.
Yeah, they're going to start up soon, aren't they? Right now?
I think so. Yeah.
I think it's this week.
This week?
This week or next week, but very, very close. Yes.
I think so. I thought you were going to say kind of like the people should check out, which I'm going to plug, which is the Craft Nights at Hillfolk. That is a shop on 8th Street. They're going to be taken over by the yarn lady. I don't remember her name. But yeah, like community craft night once a month. I think it's so great. Like even though I just learn how to knit and crochet and embroider, it's such a great just thing. Like you engage with other people, you get to meet other folks, and you're just kind of like just doing nice things.
I didn't know that was going on.
Yes.
That's very cool.
It's over there by 8th Street.
Is it restricted, like a certain age group, or is it open to families as well?
Yeah, you can bring your like youngsters.
Nice.
It's kind of more intimate, so I'd say, it's not like a 30 people thing. It's more
Right.
like a 10 to 15 tops. But it's just such a nice thing. And I always told myself when I was in Dallas, I want to go to a craft night. And then moved here and look at me doing it.
What can you be doing in those craft nights?
You literally bring whatever. They sell kits, which honestly very cool. But you can bring your own thing. Like sometimes people mend their clothes. Other times people, they come over and they bring a sewing machine, which is, like one of the most extreme cases. But you can do so many things. Like I've knitted, a friend of mine watercolored. So just literally bring whatever craft or get one there. They have like some really easy ones. And the benefit is like they actually help you learn while you're like doing the thing, like punch needle.
Very cool. Nice little date.
That was pretty cool. Take my son over there.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Anna, well, thank you again so much for your time. We're super grateful that you took time out of your day. And it's hard to get scheduling on, so we're very grateful for your time. Real quick, towards the end of our podcast, there's something that we like to do. Each guest will leave a question for our next guest. So our previous guest was Yair Benitez, the barber I told you about, who him and his business partner have the 3. He left a question for you, and his question is, if you could have ventured out to another business, what would it be? And if you did venture out, would you go back to your previous business, which in this case is podcasting?
I think I would do something like garden related. So kind of like teaching classes on how to grow food. I'm really big on sustainability, and I think community impact is huge. So teaching people how to grow food, how to care for their gardens, also, like how to build community like that would be something that I would do.
Wow.
And then the question from the
so if let's say you did venture out into being doing that with gardening, would you find yourself going back to what you do now?
I probably would be doing a hybrid. I would be like me talking in the backyard. I would mix the two.
You're doing a podcast while you're gardening.
Yes. I would be like sounds of the garden, and maybe I'd be like putting my radio voice, and it'd be like, today is the day where your audience finds you.
Hey, there you go. ASMR.
And you pick up your strawberries, and you're like,
kind of like affirmations, you know what I mean? Affirmations from the garden. There we go.
There you go. Cool. Very good. Very good.
I think that is a great market here, and I'm not familiar with one.
Yeah, maybe somebody needs to set that up. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Great idea right there.
That is
cool, Anna. Well, what question? Now it's your turn.
Yeah, your question. Yes.
Simple, big, complex, whatever.
Ooh, I know.
Okay.
So, I want them to share with us what is one small thing that they do on an either daily or weekly basis to restore their faith in humanity, like locally. So what is something that they do for the community every single day to kind of like balance the scales of like doing good, you know what I mean?
Okay.
To restore their faith in humanity.
Or in the community.
Okay.
Yeah, because humanity could be like, wow, that's a big question.
Cool. That's a good question.
That's a very good question.
Very, very good.
I think I know who our next guest is. So
yeah?
Okay.
Exciting.
That's pretty exciting. Wow.
Awesome.
Well, Anna, thank you so much for coming and joining us here and spending time with us. As Enrique said, I mean, we're honored and privileged. We always are when we have a guest, whenever they say yes to us, just to really take their time to join us and, share their thoughts and their story with us or with the audience too. So thank you very much for being here. And we'd love to continue to have you back and hear how everything is going in the podcast space. But is there anything that you'd like to promote before we wrap up? Feel free to.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend that they listen to the podcast at thepodcastspace.com/podcast.
Yes.
Because I think that if nothing else, you were talking about how the podcast, before we hit record, how the podcast sometimes feels like therapy. I think that a podcast can be a great self-discovery tool. Mm. Don't think about the impact for other people. Focus first on you. What is something like legacy? Mm-hmm. If you were to be gone tomorrow, what is something that is about your digital footprint that you would like people to find out about you, right? Or what is something that like the podcast could allow you to experiment or be creative with that you maybe don't allow yourself to do in any other facet of your life. So that's what I would really like people to do, to think about. That's
pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's a great answer.
Dropping gems. There you go.
Man,
awesome. Well, and again, thank you so much. We're very grateful again.
Folks, thank you all for tuning in. As always, you can always find our guest information on our Instagram at SO NWA podcast on Instagram. And if you ever have any recommendations, you can always send us an email, or if you need any real estate help, you can always email us as well at sonwapodcast@gmail.com. But thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.